What's going on, gang? It is Phoenix. Still getting used to doing an intro that doesn't have my old channel name on here. So what I wanted to do for this video is kick off a mini-series that I'm going to try and have be an ongoing thing here on this channel now that I've revamped things a little bit. As you can tell per the title down there, this series is all going to be about my favorite Transformers. Some of the ones that I feel like are the lifeblood of my collection. The ones that are just toys that I will probably never part with for one reason or another. Be it sentimentality, or just that the toy is, in my opinion, a definitive version of that character. Or whatever other reason I can come up with. Can you tell that I'm doing this off the cuff? Anyhow, so for this inaugural episode of my favorite Transformers, until I come up with a better name for it, let's talk Reveal the Shield Lugnut. Oh my gosh, this figure. Oh, so good. I remember when this guy came out around about 2012, I believe. I forget exactly when 2012 he came out. But he took the collecting fan base by storm. This is one of those figures that comes out shortly after the only previous version of the character has come out. Yes, there were other Transformers that had used the name Lugnut or Lugnuts prior to animated. I can think of specifically of Cybertron. There was a little Scout Class motorcycle dude who appeared all in one scene in the actual cartoon that was named Lugnuts. And then they probably just ended up shortening that to Lugnut for animated when that came out between the first and second movies, I believe, if I have my time frame correct. And then, like I said, right around 2012, late 2011, most of 2012, I think a little bit into 2013 as well, we had Reveal the Shield, and Generations 2.0, whatever else you want to call it. And that range gave us some incredible toys. And as I brush some of the dust off of Lugnut here, Lugnut is just one of those, like, prime examples of just great toys. And yeah, he is from that 3-year-ago period now where Voyagers were good and they had some heft to them. But I would argue that even with the more recent Voyagers and Deluxes, we've still gotten some really good figures, which I may end up making later showcases of. But this is about Lugnut. Oh, God. This figure to me is basically the definitive version of Lugnut as a character, just because it is just so playable, so fun to mess with, and it has a lot of the defining things about Lugnut. You've got just in terms of play overall, you've got, if you hit, as I just did without showing you guys, if you hit that little switch right there, you've got a punching gimmick that's actually not intrusive, and if you have it curled up, and if you have his hand curled up the right way, and him in the right pose, you can make it look like he's doing the punch of kill everything from animated, which the original animated figure couldn't do. I would be doing a side-by-side right now if I had the animated one with me, but I'm pretty sure that's in storage back in my mom's place. So, yeah. But, so just the fact alone that we have a Transformer that has an unobtrusive punching gimmick is just great to me. It takes nothing away from the figure. It adds a little bit of playability to him. And yeah, the punch is a little bit weak just because it's on a spring. So at most it's just going to, like, tap a slightly stable or completely stable Deluxe Autobot or even a Voyager Autobot over. It's just going to, like, wiggle him a little bit, but whatever. The other thing that I love about Lugnut here in this mode is that you've got just other play patterns. You've got arguably an articulated head and an articulated jaw just because of the posability. I mean, you can go Oh, mighty Megatron, I am not worthy. That was a horrible Lugnut impression, but you get the point. You've got the articulated, not quite nipple guns because they're not on his chest, so they'd be like underarm cannons slash side of his pecs cannons, and just the amount of light that you can pipe into this guy. If I had a flashlight handy, I would show. It's just amazing. I mean, just going by ambient light, which you guys can't really tell because I only have a couple lights going right now, this guy is still picking up a little bit of light through his mono eye right there, here in my room, and it's just, oh god, that's just so cool to me. And I love the aesthetic that this Lugnut gives off. Yeah, the color scheme's not accurate to the original animated Lugnut at all. Takara ended up doing that with their version of this mold. But I honestly kind of prefer this color scheme because it's more realistic, and it feels more like a scheme that Lugnut would take on in a post-animated Transformers continuity. It's really cool. And it has that chunkiness to it, even in the legs, that the character had in his show model and animated, but the toy kind of lacked, if we talk about the animated toy. So, yeah. And it's just a really nicely done, really well-detailed alt mode, and you can get it in so many poses. If I remember to, I will link somewhere around here in the video to my original review of this figure, where I believe I showed off in a couple poses for him. If not, you can check out other reviews of Reveal the Shield Lugnut here. Specifically, I can think of a few videos where Dan, Mantis99s, who I will try and remember to link below, had Lugnut just around with him, like on a trip around a couple errands or whatever. And then he ended up posing Lugnut on the hood of his car, just because there's so much posability with this figure. I mean, you've got the head is on a slightly limited ball joint just because of the stuff back here, but it's still very articulate. You've got the jaw, like I mentioned. You've got vests at the shoulders. They can't go a full 360 just because of how they're designed, but you've got ratcheted shoulders, which is so nice. You've got the bicep swivel, duh. You've got a bend at the elbow, which isn't hampered at all by the wings. You've got a bend just at, actually just below that mid-bicep swivel, which is cool. So it's basically like he has a double-jointed elbow, kind of, but not really. You've got the punch gimmick, like I keep showing you guys. And then for a Voyager that came out in 2012, you have articulated fingers. You have individually articulated fingers. So each of these moves independently, and the thumb moves independently. You could argue for you could argue that that's for transformation, but oh god. And just, that's not even the half of it. Like, you've got a full 360 at the waist, and quickly just to address the elephant in the room, even though it's a tiny baby elephant, that insignia and that insignia, that one which is over the... Before I continue the posability, just to mention it, because I know someone's going to comment about it, repro label and repro label. I have this one covering the rub symbol, I believe, just because I wanted to have an actual Decepticon insignia on him and not a rub symbol. I like rub symbols, I just wanted an actual insignia on him. Anyhow, back to the posability. So you've got a waist swivel, which is very fluid, and will still totally hold up over the years. And then the legs, you basically have universal joints at the legs, because they can go back really, really far. They're only hindered by the tail, which isn't that bad in terms of kibble. It's not even really that kibbly, to be honest. You've got the mid-thigh swivel. You've got what's basically a double-jointed knee, because you've got that joint right there and that joint. And so if you really want to, you can make him super tall, or you can collapse that joint in on itself and make him more of a hunchback, which is what he is. And then you've got, not only do you have an ankle tilt or an ankle rocker forward and back, but you've got basically bird of prey talon feet, which is amazing. And so, just, oh god. if I wasn't already gushing enough. Then you get to, honestly, this is probably my least favorite feature of the toy, just because it is a little obtrusive, and I never really use it with him when I'm messing around with him. But what you can do is you can come to the tail, lift up the butt cannon, and then rotate it so he has this cannon sticking out to the side, like that. Kind of all Armada Megatron style. It's cool that you can do it in this mode, and I like how you have the 3mm clip point there, but I still never really do it in this mode, and frankly don't do it in the alt mode either, just because I feel like it's a nice play feature, but it's not something that I really use. Speaking of the alt mode, I'm going to take him to that, and I'm going to talk about the transformation while I do it. So, in case you haven't guessed, this is probably going to be a longer video. But yeah, so Lugnut's transformation is just, oh god, it's so much fun every time I do it, and I will never get bored with it. The coolest thing for me, or one of the cooler things about it, right away, you have a little bit of an automorph, because as you pull the tail back, the head goes down to the chest. Love that. Completely non-obtrusive, doesn't take anything away from the toy at all, and it's just really well designed. And I think that ultimately goes back into why I like this figure so much, is because he's just so well engineered. Don't expect a step-by-step for the transformation. I'm just going to show you like the basic steps of it. If you want an actual step-by-step, look at the umpteen reviews that are actually out there of this guy by now. Sorry. Disengage that, slide that back. As I keep saying, this is just a fun, intuitive transformation. It is a little bit complicated, but it's not complicated in that you're confused about where things go. It's definitely on the really logical and intuitive side of that scale of how complicated things are, and I love that. Another one of my favorite things, and I'll show this better off with the other arm, is just how the wings become the arms and vice versa. It's just, oh god, it is just so, again, just so well engineered. I cannot mention that point enough, just how well done this figure is from just an engineering standpoint for a still modern Transformer. So on the arms, because I said I would show this off, you've got them more or less like this for, because I said I would show it off, you got the arm more or less like this when it's stock straight in the robot mode. You raise it up, take this panel right here, you rotate it around, you uncurl the fingers if you had them curled, you rotate this assembly that these two fingers are on 90 degrees towards the front of the jet. You then rotate this entire wing section 180, so the lead up here, the LU6 and U7, or Lugnut, is facing up now. And then you grab the fingers, and they will tab onto ports right there. And then you take the last part of the wing and you rotate it up. There's a tab right there on the wing. You tab the thumb into that. That'll hold the wing in place. And there you go. Just go ahead and line everything up, because there is a little groove that you more or less want to match the wing with on either side of the turbine. And you've got your wings done. And it's such a simple and effective transformation for the wings to arm mode and vice versa. It's just so cool. The other thing that I really like about Lugnut here is just the leg transformation. It's so fun to do. It is a little involved, but it is really, really fun to do. So you basically, you fold up the feet, you unfold the shin, and then you rotate the entire thing around at the waist. And then you basically just one of the reasons why I like this leg transformation so much is honestly just because it's so satisfying. Yeah, there is a lot of rotating and flipping and stuff, but it's so cohesive, and it's just, while it is fiddly, there is a very logical set of steps to it. And I think that, to me, is what makes this transformation still so much fun to do over the years. Even though I invariably, the first time that I transform his legs, after grabbing him off the shelf for the first time in a while, do one too many rotations. But, whatever. Tap the legs together. Now, I will say that one thing that has been an issue with mine pretty much since I got him is that the front cockpit section right here doesn't really like to tab together all that securely, mainly because it is a soft rubbery plastic, so there is a little bit of a gap there on the underside, but I never look at Lugnut from the underside. So here we have, so in spite of the fact that this is turning into a review, so I feel like I'm channeling the other reviewers when I do this, but whatever. So in spite of the fact that this video is now sounding like I'm channeling every other reviewer out there, I gotta talk about this alt mode, because that wingspan, oh my gosh. Like, if I bring him in close, I mean, right here is as close as I can get to the camera with him to keep his entire wingspan in frame. It's a good, I mean, oh God, I wish I had a good comparison handy. I mean, it's your standard blue ink pen. That's one of his wings. So, it's a good, like, 10 inches at least. I'm sure it's officially marketed somewhere as, oh, longest wingspan on a Voyager class figure. But I also don't really care. It's just a really impressive wingspan. And, God, the other, while I could deal without the elite Lugnut on the tail fin and on the wings, the detailing outside of that is also what takes the cake for me with this mode, because just the shark mouth detailing on either side of the cockpit, just the molded in detailing throughout, and even just the caution striping here by the turbines, it's just, frankly, it's beautiful. And it sounds weird to say that about a piece of plastic, but this is just a gorgeous Evil Army murder death plane alt mode, and I love it. It's just, oh God. Yes, you can argue that there's not much playability in this mode just because it's a plane you can just go whoosh, whoosh, or I suppose boo, 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 boo. No, that's not how planes fly. Even, you could argue that in this mode there's not too much playability other than going boo with him. We're going whoosh, whatever you want to do. But I want to point out two things. Those cannons that I mentioned in the alt mode, or these things right here, the mostly gold, because I have painted them a little bit, guns that I mentioned in the robot mode. Yeah, they're still around, and you can still pose them whichever way you want, so that's a little bit of play. Then if you really, really want to, because technically he is modeled after a bomber, you can lift up this section again, and he can poop out a missile. So he can shit on some unsuspecting Autobots. So, just for the sake of it, because it's here, the hoist trail cutter mold, or in this case, BotCon lift ticket, just dropping a turd on an Autobot. So yeah. Again, I literally never use this as a thing for Lugnut, especially in this mode, because this just looks stupid in my opinion, as juvenilely entertaining as it is. But yeah, I do also like that instead of this just being a flat piece back here on his butt, they did put some guns or whatever there. And you do have a 3mm clip point there too, if you have any of those weapons still lying around. But yeah, like, I can literally not say enough good about this figure. It's just, in my opinion, this is one of those figures that he only has, like, a couple very minor things wrong with him. For me, the biggest of those is this, the gapping right here. But, and there's other things that I can't think of right now. But, honestly, he's just one of those, like, quintessential figures that you just can't not have fun with. It's just, I love messing with this figure, and that's why he's the inaugural person, and that's why he's the inaugural focus for the My Favorite Transformers miniseries that I'm doing here. So, yeah. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Feel free to leave your thoughts on Reveal Shield Lugnut here below, whichever version you have, be it this version or Takara's version. And, yeah, no idea when the next one in the series will be, or what the next figure will be, because I have a long list of my favorite ones. But, yeah, I will say this going forward to close out. If we get to a character, but I will say this, if we get to a point, I will make this note here as an aside to end off the video. When we get to a figure that has had more than one use of its mold, and I have both uses, or at least more than one use, I will show off both versions that I have, or as many versions as I have. So, yeah. Anyhow, Reveal Shield Lugnut. If you don't have him, get him. He's awesome. Especially if you're not really a fan of the Voyagers that are out right now. Definitely get Lugnut here. He is amazing. I totally recommend him. Anyhow, thanks for watching this inaugural episode of My Favorite Transformers, everybody. I'll see you guys in the next video. So until then, rock on.